really feeding off each other right now in terms of the play calling. Can you guys feel that on the field? I know you don't have direct communication with them when they're calling the plays and stuff, but can you feel it? And then I guess like how? What does that feel like when you're out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing is once you start seeing us get into a rhythm. I think Coach Day has a lot of responsibility with the passing game, what's going on, and Coach Wilson kind of has his hands in the offensive line as well to make sure that we're on the same page. So I think when you start seeing, as the question just left with JT with the receivers being wide open, that's kind of where you start to see that rhythm and seeing that dynamic between those two having that relationship. And you see a lot of positive things. So I'm excited for it because then you get to see an offense like what you did today.
And I noticed that it seemed like Mike was the guy who was signaling you to snap the ball. Has he always been the guy when you're on the road to do that, or is that a switch because you had a new other guy at the other guard spot?
No, we have a couple different things in our repertoire to make sure that if the crowd noise is too much, just to make sure the offensive line is on the same page. That's one of the couple things that we do, and we trust Mike to be able to do that. So.
Middle over there, Bill.
Billy, two questions. First of all, how do you think Demetrius Knox played? And secondly, since Oklahoma, everyone's been pointing to Penn State. You're finally at that point. How ready are you for Penn State?
So to address Demetrius, I think Demetrius came in, he stepped in, prepared very, very well all week. I'm really satisfied with what he did today. Obviously, we'll be able to see it once we watch the film more to see what we can improve on and what we can take that step forward towards the next week or our next opponent being Penn State. So just really happy for Demetrius. As far as Penn State right now, obviously we want to make sure we celebrate the win. I think that's probably the biggest thing is as an offense that's continuing to gain momentum, continuing to build week in and week out, let's kind of make sure that we don't lose sight of what we just did. JT was pretty balanced. I think what 250 and 250 or some change, excuse me. So really happy to see what we're doing right now. And then obviously with Penn State coming up, just extra preparation that kind of needs to go into there. Make sure since we have an off week, being able to watch them play since we won't be practicing or we won't be playing. So I just looking forward to this one.
Okay, hey, before we go on, I want everybody to know I've got our wide receiver Terry McLaurin in the back right there. If anybody wants to break off and go talk with Terry, he's back there, and then we'll continue with Billy right here, front row Dan.
Billy, you mentioned the momentum that you guys have been gaining as an offense. How valuable is that momentum to have going into a bye week and then, of course, the game against Penn State?
Well, the best part about it is I think that we have got so much more that we can continue to do and continue to do better. As far as offensive line-wise, same thing. I mean, we're letting a couple guys systematically making sure that we're identifying what the defense is presenting itself to be, and then making sure that we are addressing that, blocking for JT so he can sit back there and just dissect defenses and distribute the ball where it needs to be. So going in there, going into a bye week, I think it's really you're going into a bye week on a high. And that's something that again, very good feeling to be able to go into.
Far left over there, Austin.
Really, when you talk about the numbers that you mentioned and the momentum that you guys are building on offense, where do you see the biggest enhancement over the last 5 games, just from big picture?
So I think when we talked on Wednesday, we just really talk about making sure that guys aren't thinking so much. And just go play, go play fast, put the ball down, stop the ball, let's go. So I think the biggest thing is just as soon as you start thinking and making sure, hey, I have to have this guy, or I have to have this guy, or you're trying to dissect things. I think that's when players start to play slow, and that's what our focus is. Don't play slow. Go get a couple yards, make sure come off the sideline, tell us what to present, and then just get it together. So make sure we're playing fast, thinking less, and just go and have fun.
How are you? It sounds difficult to me. You're saying you're thinking less, but it almost looks like the playbook has gotten larger over that time. Is that? How do those ideas balance?
So I think the biggest thing for JT is to say, okay, make it one read, not 2 or 3 reads. Make it one read and say, okay, hey, if they do this, this is where the ball goes. And so I think, and that allows us as an offensive line to play really aggressive, just start blowing guys off the ball and just moving them, which is fun for us. Again, if you're starting to, as a tackle or a guard or center, whoever you are, if you're thinking of making sure they're identifying defenses and what that blitz is exactly and make sure you block it perfect, you're not coming off as aggressive as what you need to be. So I think football's playing offensive line is a game of aggression. Go out there, have some fun, get after some fun.
Over here to the right.